The Celtics on the Team USA have a real opportunity in France. I'll explain that. Plus, what role will Tatum and Holiday play? And more examples of Joe Mazzulla being an absolute maniac right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Thanks to Blockbuster Brand, it's holiday season. Drop Jrue in the mix, and 3 from KP. No, we not on the Knicks. Flushing competition like Al on Giannis. Juice and Big Deuce, still Beantown's finest. Banner 18 going up in the rafters. Watch the C's game in Locked On after. Karalis on the breakdown. Clutch like a tip from D. White on the breakdown. John on the mic, documenting domination. Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J's, how we started, raising business, how we finish. Locked On Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I got you covered every Monday through Friday through July, August, September. We go down to 3 days a week, get a little bit of a break, but you still get a bunch of podcasts Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, watch the show on YouTube, get into that comment section. Let me know what you think about what I'm saying about the team, about anything you want. I'm John Karalis. I used to play a long time ago. Now I'm covering the Celtics as a beat writer for Boston Sports Journal. I've also written a book called Built Different. It's a commemorative book celebrating the Celtics championship run. Go check it out wherever you get your books, on Amazon and on triumphbooks.com/CelticsWin. I think you can still use the code Celtics24 for 25% off there. And I will have autographed copies for sale on my website soon. So if you want one of those, that'll be for sale soon. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase of last-minute tickets. Terms apply. Today's show, later on, we're going to get to Joe Mazzulla, the maniac. I love examples of Joe being an absolute lunatic because he's an absolute lunatic. I mean, just like I asked Jrue Holiday one time during the playoff run, why do you keep using the word crazy to describe Joe Mazzulla? The answer was because he's crazy. So all said in good fun and with, the best of intentions behind it. But the first two segments here are going to be about Team USA. And later in the second segment, we'll talk about the specific roles for Holiday and for Tatum, because that is still some question. The Team USA, this is the Wednesday show, Wednesday night, 10:30, I believe, on FS1. I keep wanting to say Celtics. Team USA versus Team Canada. It's a friendly. That's what they call exhibition games in international competition. So they will play a friendly, and we'll get to see some basketball with Tatum and Jrue Holiday. But the real opportunity for the Boston Celtics, and it's an opportunity that they need to take advantage of, is they've now got a month or so, 4 or 5 weeks of time together with one of the greatest teams assembled that you can assemble. It's a team that should win gold medal, that has so many amazing players, but has so many players that have done what the Celtics are trying to do. And Holiday understands it a little bit. Tatum is getting his first taste of it. This is a real chance for Tatum and Holiday to sit down and look. Peyton Pritchard, in this time with the USA select team, to be around these guys and to try and sit down with Steve Kerr, who obviously has coached the Golden State Warriors through very long runs, multiple runs. Steph Curry, who has done it with the Warriors. Kevin Durant, who has done it with the Warriors. LeBron James, who has done it with multiple teams, going deep and turning around and being 83 years old and still playing at a very high level. LeBron knows maybe as well as anybody. Now, he is a little bit of a cyborg because, to be seriously like almost 40 years old and playing at this level, he's got a lot of information that these guys, and I know that they all talk anyway, but to be around these guys on a bus, on a plane, at a breakfast, at a team meal, in the locker room, just being able to sit down and soak up the knowledge, to talk to Curry, to talk to Durant, to talk to LeBron, to talk to Kerr. This is a real opportunity for these guys to get into, like, how did you do it? Hey, Steph, I just went through 10 months of basketball. I just won a championship. All I want to do is drink champagne and party. And in a month, we got to get back to Boston and do it all over again. How did you do it? And those answers are going to be really, really important for the Celtics. Those are going to be conversations that could be game changers, that could be just a little kernel of knowledge. Steph or LeBron or any of these guys, Kerr, maybe from the coaching perspective, just how things were kept maybe light or serious, or, you know, how did they approach these moments? And you never know in these conversations. Maybe you throw away 99% of it, but there just could be one sentence somewhere that Tatum goes, oh, damn, you know, and you might not even realize it right away. You have these conversations, and this is how these things work. You can sit and talk to somebody about your job. You can talk to a mentor, a confidant, just somebody you trust, somebody you admire, whoever, coworker who you just like, man, that person just knows exactly how to do the job, and have a conversation. And maybe when the conversation is over, it doesn't inspire you. It doesn't sit there to be like, oh, I'm going to be a completely different person. You just like take it in and you say, okay, I'm just going to go about my business. And then a month later, 6 months later, a year later, something happens and you go, Steph Curry said that this would happen. KD said this would happen. Kerr told us that be careful when you see this thing, because that's a sign of a problem. You never know where along the way next season one of these lessons could come up. But the more conversations you have with the guys who have done this over and over and over again and had these deep, deep runs, Kawhi Leonard in San Antonio is a guy you could talk to. You never know when that little bit of knowledge, it could show up next June, getting ready for the NBA Finals. You never know. So this is why I wish Derek White was there. This is why I especially wish that Jaylen Brown was there, so everybody can get that knowledge. But at least Tatum and Holiday being there, soaking it up, that is where Boston has a unique opportunity to get this little tidbit of a kernel, a nugget of something that next year could be the difference between tripping and falling at some point or getting through a tough spot. So that, to me, is the number one reason why I'm happy that Tatum and Holiday are there. Now, what roles are they going to play? How are they going to be used on Team USA? It's a good question, because I'm not sure how it's going to go, but we'll talk about that in just a second. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Now, I'm going to take a little bit of a break this summer. Things wind down a little bit. I'm going to head into town. I'm going to try to get to a couple of Red Sox games. Here's my plan. I'm going to open up the Game Time app while I'm sitting at maybe the Cask and Flagon or one of these places, excuse me, on Lansdowne Street, around the bar, around the park. I'm going to wait. I'm going to watch the Game Time app, because Game Time, the prices, they start to go down the closer you get to first pitch. I'm going to wait for the right opportunity to strike, and boom, I'm going to grab my last minute tickets on the Game Time app. And they're an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. So that's going to make getting tickets faster and easier for me. I'm looking forward to catching a couple of Red Sox games and getting a deal using the Game Time app. I know these last minute deals can help me save up to 60% off buying these last minute tickets for not only sports, but concerts, a comedy show, theater, anything. They have flash deals, exclusive in-app deals that are on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Zone deals where you pick a section, they pick the seats. And when I toggle the all-in pricing, I know I'm going to get the price. And when I go to checkout, that's going to be the price. No surprise fees. And if I want to be sure of what I'm getting, I just get that panoramic view, the seat view, so I know what I'm getting into before I buy. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKED, LOCKEDONNBA. You'll get $20 off your first purchase of last-minute tickets. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA. I just recorded the show with Jake Madison. We talked about free agency and the moves that haven't been made, the trades that haven't been made, and how the CBA is affecting that. Plus Team USA, lots of Team USA talk, Cooper Flag talk. That's all part of Locked On NBA. So go check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Now, one of the things we did on Locked On NBA is try to pick a starting lineup for Team USA. And we talked for like 12 minutes and I still don't know what the starting lineup is going to be. I think Steph Curry and Jayson Tatum would be a great starting lineup. But I also think Curry with Holiday would be a really good starting lineup because you need some level of defense in that backcourt. Now, if they go with Curry and Tatum, you could go pretty big across the front line with Tatum and KD and LeBron and maybe Anthony Davis. And now you've got 6'8", 6'8", or 6'9", 6'10", 6'10" across the front line with Steph Curry. That's a hell of a lot of defense. It's a hell of a lot of rim protection where you don't have to worry about Steph Curry defensively. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tatum gets a starting role here. And, we'll get our first look, like I said, Wednesday night. It's a 10:30 game. And, who knows how that'll go. But we'll see. And maybe Tatum starts, but I think that could be a real possibility. And look, starting and playing next to Steph and playing next to these guys, always going to potentially add something to their games. But I think the Tatum that we've seen this season is a big reason, the way he played this season. It's a big reason why I think he can start for Team USA because he really went into facilitation mode. And I think Tatum, the facilitator, if you're playing next to Steph, and if it is KD and LeBron and Anthony Davis, well, Steph is an incredible passer. Tatum is willing to draw. And because he's 6'8" and he's, can get to the rim and all of that, he is able to draw too and kick. And like, that's going to be everybody. Who do you not double team on this roster? But Tatum is willing to pass. LeBron is obviously willing to pass. Then you get Durant and Davis, who are going to catch a lot of passes from these guys and score a lot of points. So I just think the facilitation along with the length and the defense is going to be very helpful. And then if you go second unit, you can put Anthony Edwards and Jrue Holiday, which is smaller, but more bulldog type of players. Definitely a lot more defense up front. And then I don't know how they run these rotations. I mean, you're going to need to play Devin Booker somewhere. Kawhi Leonard, maybe, or maybe Kawhi just chills and doesn't, push his knee. Joel Embiid, does Joel Embiid start or come off the bench? I think maybe he comes off the bench because you don't want to have him push anything on his meniscus. I'm sure people in Philly and people in, the Clippers organization are going to be like, look, if you can keep it to 15 minutes a game or less, we'd really appreciate it. And I think Embiid and Kawhi probably just along for the ride a little bit and trying to get their gold medals. And I expect a little bit more Anthony Davis, a little bit more Bam Adebayo to kind of carry more of the minutes. And look, you can run all kinds of different lineups out here. You can go super small. You can go Curry, Edwards, Jrue, Booker, and Tatum at the 5 and just have a bunch of like really quick jump shooting, crazy energy forward or guards against a smaller team. You could even go massive, super big with Embiid, Anthony Davis at the 4, Bam Adebayo at the 3, LeBron at the point, and like Tatum at the 2, or Durant at the 2, and just go super, super big with 6'9", 6'10", 6'10", 7 feet. Just have 7-footers all over the place and protect the hell out of the rim. And LeBron's just picking them apart with their passing. You can go super big, you can go super small, you can mix it up. So I'm really curious as to what role Holiday and Tatum are going to play. I think Holiday should get a good amount of minutes in these Olympics, because they're going to need someone out there as a hawk on the ball defensively. So he'll get his time. I'm just more interested in more like Tatum. What does Jayson Tatum do? What does he become with this team? The last time around, he was a lot more limited, and he came in off the bench and he just was, he found his way, but that was also a weird situation with the post-COVID bubble and all that stuff. This is such a, you tell me in the comment section, who would you start? Who would you play? I haven't even really mentioned Tyrese Halliburton. I don't want to start Halliburton next to Curry. It's not enough defense up front. You need defense up front. That's why I think Tatum would be really good as a big 2, and he can play that position. And with some of the length on the floor, you absolutely can put some extra length out there on the perimeter and have him guard. I think that'll be good. And for people who are going to say, well, that's going to be a lot for him to do that and then come back and play. Yeah, it's not going to be great to have him playing a bunch of these minutes, but you also have to understand that they're not just sitting around on their butts all summer. They're playing basketball. They are playing a lot. So because of how deep this team is, you can have him out there and he can play like 25 minutes, and that's not a big deal, right? 20-something minutes, and you can find your time for Halliburton. You can find your time for Devin Booker. There are really no wrong answers. Anthony Edwards has got to get plenty of time out there. So there are no wrong answers for how these guys are deployed. I'd like to maybe limit Holiday because he's 34 and, you just want to limit him a little bit. Tatum's 26, but, the minutes pile up, long playoff runs in this. You don't want him to be overtaxed, but I do want him to get this experience and playing with these guys and understanding. Get him on the floor with Joel Embiid and get him, I would love to see him run pick and roll with Joel Embiid, because if he can run pick and roll, or Holiday run pick and roll with Joel Embiid, if you can get those guys on the floor together, then Embiid is going to tell you, this is how I want the ball. This is how I want this. And you can hear him give you the scouting report on himself, right? That's something I would love to see. The more you can play next to, I think Bam might be a little bit of a different story, but yeah, get out there and play with Bam too. But Embiid especially, these guys have played. They know tendencies. They know all that stuff. But just like in the first segment where I'm like, the more you talk to somebody, the more you're going to understand some of the things that they're saying. Get Embiid out there on the floor with Tatum and Holiday and run plays, run it in practice. Like Tatum, if he's smart, Holiday, if he's smart, they're going to go to Joel Embiid in practice and going to be like, hey, let's run through some pick and roll stuff. So, when we get out there, we can, figure it out. Get Joel Embiid to spill the tea and explain to you all of the things that he wants, as much as he can give you, so you can use it against him when you play Philly, because it's the same stuff that he's been telling his point guards. So use it. As much information as you can pump out of Embiid to find a way to neutralize him a little bit more, because as his game evolves, as he grows, he stays a little bit further away from the hoop. Figure anything you can figure out, just do it. The more you can learn about a guy, the more when, if it's Celtics and Sixers in a playoff series, you can go back to July and August and be like, hey, I remember he said in these situations he likes X, Y, and Z. So let's take that away. And hopefully Embiid doesn't catch on and feed some false information. But if he tells you something, you can see it on film, like, oh, that's right. He does do this. Could be just a little tweak that you didn't notice, you didn't realize, or he could just tell you in certain spots, I like this. Anything that he can give up, get it, use it, take advantage of this situation. All right, moving on. Joe Mazzulla. Joe Mazzulla is a madman. I'll explain that when I come back. There are a couple examples of Joe Mazzulla recently just being Joe Mazzulla, and I can't wrap up the podcast without just sharing these. If you didn't see them, it was really funny, starting with Jayson Tatum signing his max extension. And this is, in the Globe. He said Joe Mazzulla pulled him aside and shared some thoughts. And Tatum says, Joe was already trying to draw up plays for next season. And I was like, Joe, blank that. We just want a championship. Like, enjoy it and relax. We're not worried about any sets that you're trying to put in right now. And we had a good laugh about it because he's just so driven, which we all are. But it's like, man, we work so hard for this. We've got to enjoy it. So that's example number one. Now, here we are in July, early July. Tatum is like, he just said, I celebrated some, but I need to celebrate some more. Like, Tatum is still very much in celebration mode. And when he comes out of the Olympics, he's also going to be in celebration mode after that. Like, I think he's going to be celebrating through August. I think September is going to come around and he's be like, okay, all right, here we go. But just to hear Joe be like, oh, hey, since I got you here, here's like some, okay, we're going to start you in the corner. What if we started you in the corner and ran this pin down for you and then this cross screen? And CJ's like, whoa. Go have a drink, man. Relax. Mazzulla just had surgery on his meniscus. So he's probably sitting at home just driving himself nuts, like extrapolating out like, okay, but if we do this, then the other team's going to do this. So then this is our counter, but then they're going to counter this way. And oh, this is going to be great. Oh, they're never going to expect this. You're like, whoa. Like, more so than Tatum and Brown and whoever's around the practice facility, it might be like Joe's wife that's going to be like, can you relax for just 2 minutes and stop running plays by me? But that's what makes Joe Mazzulla Joe. Like, he might make mistakes, but no one is going to outwork that guy. He's never going to be underprepared for a game, a series, or whatever. Maybe they missed something, but it's not going to be for lack of preparation. And the other thing is just a funny thing because the Celtics are hiring Sham God's son, and they talked to God Sham God, Providence College product. And they said that back when Joe was an assistant, Joe Mazzulla watched so much game film that Sham God and other assistants began to have concerns about his mental health. So they convinced him to sit down with them after long days of work and watch an hour of regular television. If Joe Mazzulla has any weakness, it's he's a little out of balance. And honestly, I don't think you can be successful as Mazzulla is at such a young age, as successful as any of these guys in the NBA, the most successful people, without having some sort of imbalance in your life. Like, no perfectly balanced brain says, oh yeah, I'm going to do this till exhaustion and then keep going because somebody might be doubting me somewhere, or I heard this, or I read this, or, something has told me in my life to keep preparing and keep going. No, a reasonable person with a well-balanced, work life kind of outlook will say, I have worked very hard today. I am now going to go home and put this aside and spend time with my family and watch something on TV, something on Netflix or Hulu. The Bear is out there. I watched episode 1 of The Bear, which, by the way, and I like that show, but okay. I only watched episode 1. We're hesitant to get into episode 2. But does Joe Mazzulla even know what the hell I'm talking about? Does he know what The Bear is? Other than, is that a name for some play? Did somebody in Europe come up with something called The Bear? What's that? What kind of screen is that? Joe is like a normal person says, okay, I've done my work. I am now going home. I'm now doing this. I'm putting stuff aside. And my work-life balance is going to be, equitable. And I'm going to have a nice kind of balance in my life where I can sleep normally and not be too stressed. Well, I really don't think that the all-time greats, and Joe Mazzulla, look, has an opportunity. He just won a championship in his mid-30s. So coaches coach until they're 50, 60. He's got like 30 years. You start piling up a few championships, all of a sudden the conversation about Mazzulla is radically different. Well, let's be honest here. If they win another championship, there's 2 championships already for Joe Mazzulla. How many coaches ever in NBA history have 2 championships? A bunch have 1. The ones that have 2, you're like, oh, okay, interesting. And then he has an opportunity to win a 3rd somewhere down the road. Like, he wins 3, 4 over his career. That's pretty rarefied air. He could go down in history. He has an opportunity, at least, to go down as one of the best coaches of all time. That you cannot tell me that opportunity doesn't exist. I'm not saying he is or will be, but when you win a championship as a coach in your mid-30s and you have this team coming back, all of a sudden your resume starts to look like, hey, wait a second. This dude's got it. So when you got it, and you don't come up with those best of all time until the end, right? Like, no one thought Jaylen Brown has the potential for a Hall of Fame case, early on in his career, but all of a sudden, now he's got a championship, Finals MVP, Eastern Conference Finals MVP. You win another championship, he makes couple of All-NBA teams, a few more All-Star teams, and you're like, wow, okay, now here's a guy. He's already at 10,000 points. He's 27. He's at 10,000 points. He has an opportunity to get to 20,000 points. He has an opportunity to get multiple All-NBA, a bunch of All-Stars, and multiple championships. And he already has 1 Finals MVP under his belt. So all you need is that 1. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, wow. Jaylen Brown actually has a potential Hall of Fame case here, right? 2 years ago, you wouldn't have said that. But now, it depends on how it goes down the road, right? Al Horford didn't have a Hall of Fame case a couple years ago, but now kind of does. Championship, 2 college championships. All right. If he wins a second one, oh man. But that's what I'm talking about. But these guys, you don't have balance in your life. There's something out of whack in your head that makes you say, no, keep going. I'm going to keep going when reasonable people stop. And that's something that's in Joe Mazzulla. He just keeps going and keeps preparing. And again, to the same point that I've been making in segments 1 and 2, when you fill your head with all of these possibilities, you don't know when you'll need it. But if you have these plays, if you have this mental Rolodex, if you just keep going and preparing and preparing and preparing, you never know. Again, it could be in June, where something that Joe Mazzulla thought of, that piece of paper or that thing that he was showing Jayson Tatum a week ago or a few days ago, that could be something that comes up. He'd be like, hey, remember when you signed your contract and I was telling you about a play? We're running it right now. It's game 6 of the NBA Finals, and this is that play, and we're going to go score a basket on it. Who knows? That could be it. You never know when something that you've worked on is going to come up. You just got to have it in your brain somewhere. And then as you're studying a situation, you go, I got it. We're going to do this thing. And that could be the thing that works. Joe Mazzulla, madman, crazy person when it comes to basketball. Good dude, obviously a good family man, but clearly obsessive about this stuff. And that's what you need to be the best, to be a champion. That's what you need. All right, we're going to come back tomorrow with another podcast, and then podcast 5 days a week, all through July. So make sure you're subscribed. Plenty to talk about. I will find things to talk about that you're going to want to hear about, because there's a lot that applies to the Celtics out there. No matter, we'll find it on this podcast. We'll find it. We'll talk about it. You let me know what you think in the comment section on the YouTube page, or just find me on Twitter or whatever. But I'd love it if you subscribe. I would love it if you shared the podcast and tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.